Is Tom Brady causing the Raiders to fall behind in their head coaching search? What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. On today's show, 2 NFL teams have already hired coaches. Are the Raiders falling behind? Plus, the Golden Knights have won 7 straight games and just made one of the biggest trades of the season. The Runnin' Rebels won a game. And does Miami have a chance against Indiana? The Raiders are one of 8 teams that need a new head coach this offseason. 2 of those 8 have already hired their next head coach. The Giants got John Harbaugh, and now the Atlanta Falcons have hired Kevin Stefanski. The Raiders interviewed Kevin Stefanski. I'm curious how interested Stefanski was in the Raiders job. Maybe not at all, considering he took the Atlanta job before taking any sort of second interview with the Raiders. And I'll start off by adding this context. It is not important to hire the first head coach of a coaching cycle. It's not important to be early on hiring a head coach. The Raiders might make the best hire of the coaching cycle, and they might do it the week before the Super Bowl as opposed to in the middle of July. But on name power, Harbaugh and Stefanski were probably the 2 best candidates that were available, and neither one seemed all that interested in the Raiders. But the real funny part of this, and only funny, I guess, if you want to laugh at the Raiders, it's actually bad if you're the Raiders. The Falcons finalized the deal for Kevin Stefanski in the middle of the 49ers-Seahawks game, a game that Tom Brady was working. He's on television talking to us about Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold while another NFL team is hiring their head coach. Does Mark Davis realize how terrible of a look that is? That Tom Brady, the guy that he is apparently giving control to, he's the final decision maker, is on TV working for Fox, another company, talking about 2 completely different NFL teams, while the Falcons hire Kevin Stefanski. You would think hiring a head coach would be the number 1 priority of an organization. But for the Raiders, they're having to work around Tom Brady's schedule. They're meeting with coaches today in Miami. Why? Because Tom Brady doesn't have to call a game today, and he can actually go to those meetings. Also, just happens to be the state that Tom Brady lives in, right? They're not having people fly out to Vegas and go to the facility there and do their meetings. They're doing it on Tom Brady's schedule and for Tom Brady's best locations. And if you look at the Atlanta Falcons, what did they do? They hired Matt Ryan as president. And you know what Matt Ryan did? He quit his TV job. He was on CBS as a studio analyst. They did a whole goodbye to Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan is taking this seriously. Matt Ryan is treating running an NFL team as his job. Whereas Tom Brady is treating it as just like, what, a Pizza Hut commercial? A Ninja air fryer commercial? Right? Like, that's what the Raiders are doing right now. And it's so bad for this organization to have somebody who is a part-time worker being the one that's calling the shots. And it's all because Mark Davis is so desperate to have some big, flashy name in his organization. So he wants Tom Brady there. He tried to sell Tom Brady a piece of the Raiders at a discounted rate. It was such a discounted rate. The other NFL owners said, no, you can't sell a piece of your franchise for that cheap because that devalues our franchises too, right? That's how desperate Mark Davis was to have Tom Brady around. And now he's letting Brady just do whatever he wants. And their coaching search is when it works in Tom Brady's schedule, not what's actually best for the Raiders, right? Like, that's an insane thing for an organization to be doing. Absolutely insane for that to be happening, right? You're going to have like Robert Saleh, right? They interview Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator of the 49ers. Now their season is over. Is Robert Saleh, if he wants to interview for this job again, or if the Raiders want to interview him for this job again, does he have to fly to Florida to go meet with Tom Brady? Or can he make the shorter trip to Vegas to actually do the interview, right? Like, that's what the Raiders are doing, and it's so bad. It's so bad. Like, it's just a hilarious thing that only Mark Davis would allow to happen, which is, I don't know how much of a bigger sign you need than the Falcons fire a coach while your decision maker is on television. And we got reports, by the way, that Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, right, they had Kevin Stefanski over for dinner during that game. Mark Davis can't do that. because the guy he wants to hire the next coach is calling that game. It's just an insane thing for an organization to expect to work. I don't know why you would look at this and say, oh, clearly that's going to work. If the Raiders gave John Spytek full control, if the Raiders gave their general manager, said, John, it's your job, you hire the coach, and they treated Tom Brady as a sounding board, they treated Tom Brady as somebody to go to for advice, that I think would be fine. I think that would work out. But scheduling everything around when Tom Brady has to be on television for Fox is not the way an NFL organization should be run, especially when we're talking about hiring the head coach. And by the way, Brady was somehow in charge last offseason, and this whole part-time, maybe I'm going to do it, maybe you can come to me, maybe I'll be there every now and then, it didn't work. They had a horrible offseason. The Pete Carroll hire was a disaster. The Geno Smith trade and sign was a disaster. The draft was a disaster. Their free agent class, disaster. Everything they did in the offseason was horrible. And that Tom Brady was there. This wasn't, oh, now Tom Brady's in charge. No, Tom Brady was around for all of that. Tom Brady's the one that wanted Ben Johnson, couldn't get him. And so they pivoted to Pete Carroll. Tom Brady didn't want Sam Darnold, but did want Geno Smith, right? Like, it's just insane that they think this part-time owner that's the faux president of football operations is actually going to work. They got lucky that they get the number one pick. And if Fernando Mendoza is a superstar, it'll cover up a lot of problems. It'll make a lot of issues the Raiders have go away if Mendoza is awesome, because that's what franchise quarterbacks can do. You can have a lot of issues, but if you've got one of the like 4 or 5 best quarterbacks in football, we won't notice them quite as much. But if Mendoza's not that good, if Mendoza's just a good NFL quarterback, we're not going to see it. It's not going to lead to anything, because what they're having Tom Brady do is run the organization in between commercial breaks at Fox. Not even that. They got to wait till the very next day. Now, there's 2 interviews that I do want to talk about. We got the report from Tom Pelissero that Mike McDaniel is going to have an in-person interview today with the Raiders in Miami. I will say this does make sense to have it in Miami. I'm assuming Mike McDaniel still has a home in Miami after getting fired by the Dolphins, and the Raiders are there for the national championship. So that does seem convenient for all parties involved to just be at Miami. I am very fascinated by this because I am somebody who absolutely believes the Raiders should be hiring an offensive-minded head coach. I think most organizations should be trying to hire an offensive-minded head coach, but especially the organization that's about to draft a quarterback first overall. And that's what Mike McDaniel is. I wouldn't hate hiring Mike McDaniel because of that. And specifically, if you go to the first 2 years of McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa in Miami, they were 11th and then 2nd in points, and they were 6th and then 1st in yards. We saw 2 seasons of an awesome offense in Miami with Mike McDaniel calling plays, and did it with a quarterback that we know now definitely is not a superstar. Miami didn't figure that out until they gave him a big contract, so sucks for them, but we know that now. And so we have at least some proof that, oh, Mike McDaniel can put together a really good offense, even if his quarterback isn't a superstar. Now, Tyreek Hill was awesome, and his speed was a game changer for Miami. The Raiders do not have a Tyreek Hill on the roster. There's also the idea that playing too high, which became the craze for defenses that take away deep plays, is what killed off a lot of Mike McDaniel's offensive scheme. So in a way, as the league sort of caught up to the way McDaniel wants, like, yes, there are potential scheme issues, and that's what you'd want Tom Brady to be there to help figure out, along with John Spytek and everybody else. I'm not going to pretend to be smart enough to know if McDaniel's offense has been caught up and he can't adjust and all of that. But we do have some proof of concept that Mike McDaniel can put together a really, really good offense. So I am not entirely against this. I will say Mike McDaniel does feel like the guy who might just be an awesome offensive coordinator and not the head coach, right? Josh McDaniels in New England. Yeah, that type of coach. So I wouldn't be shocked if he only gets an offensive coordinator position, has a really good offense for a couple of years, gets another head coaching job, and is just not good at it again. Like, that wouldn't be surprising if that's McDaniel's timeline over the next 5 years or whatever it is. So that wouldn't be shocking. I still am not completely against giving Mike McDaniel a chance just because I want the offensive-minded head coach, right? Figuring out the defensive coordinator is obviously going to be important, and getting the right players, because they have a lot of holes on that side of the ball, is obviously going to be important regardless of the offensive-minded guy you hire. But I don't hate that one. Now, the other interview is Ejiro Evero, who is the Panthers defensive coordinator. He is apparently going to get his second interview with the Raiders, according to Jeremy Fowler. First one was was virtual. This one will be in person. So I know this isn't the end all be all, but I don't get this one based off Avero's career as a defensive coordinator. This past season, Carolina was 16th in points allowed and 15th 16th in points and 15th in yards, but 26th in EPA per play. And in 2024, the Panthers were the worst defense across the board. Gave up the most points, gave up the most yards, had the worst EPA, right? So we've got the normal stats and the advanced stats that all said the Panthers in 2024 were the worst defense in the league. And then this year, advanced stats say still bad. The normal stats say, all right, they got him to average. He was also the defensive coordinator in Denver for one season. And if you take his 4 years in total, where he's been a defensive coordinator, 1 in Denver and then 3 in Carolina, his EPA per play has been 9th, 26th, 32nd, and 26th. That's not good. Like, there's one good season in there, and it was in Denver. And by the way, Denver in the 3 seasons since Evero left is number 1 in EPA per play over those 3 seasons. So, like, I don't know. I don't get it necessarily based on what his defenses have been in his career. Now, again, that's not how you should be hiring or evaluating a coach, but normally we do look at it and say, oh, who's got the best defense or the best offense? That's the guy we should be looking to hire from the coordinator position to the head coach. So I'm a little, I don't know, I'm not in love with that idea just based on what Evero has been, and the fact that I wouldn't want to hire the defensive-minded head coach regardless of what his numbers were, right? You put out to me, oh, he's had the best defense 3 straight years. I'd be like, yeah, he needs to, you need an offensive guy because you got Fernando Mendoza coming in. I'd still think that, but kind of confused on the Evero one. Maybe it's just Rooney Rule. At the end of the day, maybe it's just to help satisfy the Rooney Rule, and they're not that interested in hiring him, but this is one of the better candidates they can interview that helps them meet the Rooney Rule. We'll see, but will Tom Brady be there? I don't think he's got to call any games on Fox for at least the week, right? He's got until the weekend to do anything, so the Raiders might get him for like 6 straight days without having to go to work. We'll see. He's got to do some prep, so maybe not. Maybe only 4 of those 6 days. Also, in the NFL, the playoffs, we're down to the Final Four, but it's like the worst thing, right? That Bo Nix gets hurt. It breaks a bone in his ankle, and now the Broncos are in the AFC title game, and it's Jarrett Stidham that's going to play quarterback. It's similar to the NBA Finals when Tyrese Halliburton blew his Achilles in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And it's like, it's just this deflating overall feeling. This is not quite the Super Bowl, right? It would be, I think, even worse if all of a sudden this happened and we're like, oh, Jarrett Stidham has to start the Super Bowl. But I don't know. It's just this like, oh, as much as I've hated on Bo Nix and don't think he's that good, he's better than Jarrett Stidham. And you lose your quarterback right before you're hosting it just sucks. It just all around sucks. And so I'm guessing New England's going to win that game, but I don't know. Denver does have a really, really good defense, and a lot of their games are just, hey, we need like 2 plays from the quarterback. If he can make 2 plays for us, our defense is good enough that we're going to win the game. But we're going to see Jarrett Stidham starting at quarterback in an AFC title game. We saw terrible performance from Houston that I don't know whether I should think New England's good still. They're playing in the AFC title game, and I still don't know if they're any good. Hell, they're going to play. They might beat Jarrett Stidham, and they're going to be in the Super Bowl. I'm still going to say, I don't know if they're that good. Like they had the easiest strength schedule in the entire NFL, and now their playoff run, I mean, about as easy as you could get, right? You get Herbert with a broken hand in the Chargers, and then you get whatever the hell C.J. Stroud and the Texans just did, and now Jarrett Stidham. It's as easy as it gets. But I'm kind of convinced Seattle's winning the Super Bowl. Right, like the Rams' offense is the best offense that's left in the league, and generally I'd lean towards, they've got Stafford and Puka, and their run game's really good. But like, goddamn, Seattle just seems to be good at everything. Like their defense is unbelievable. Their special, like they just seem to be good at everything. So I'm kind of getting convinced more and more Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl, and hopefully we get close games. But I think there might be a chance Seattle and LA should be close, but we might get a blowout in the Super Bowl. Seattle might win the Super Bowl by like 30 points. That wouldn't be any fun. Wouldn't be on board for that. Coming up next, it is Bischoff's Briefs.
Battle Blast, been serving Las Vegas since June 2012 with the very best in family entertainment. We are proud to provide the best facility, equipment, and service possible. Strap on laser tag vests, step into the 5,600 square foot two-story arena designed to look like a worn-torn city street. An exciting atmosphere filled with exhilarating music, blacklight effects, and fog. Battle Blast also features a viewing deck for those not playing can watch players vest up and catch a view of the action going on in the arena. In between games, check out our arcade and prize center and enjoy tasty treats from our snack bar. Birthday parties, sports teams, group outings, and corporate events. Battle Blast does it all. We want to make your Battle Blast experience so good you'll want to return again and again. Battle Blast is the ultimate destination for family fun and friendly competition.
Bischoff's Briefs is brought to you by Battle Blast Las Vegas, the best laser tag in Las Vegas. Battle Blast is the best place for your next event, whether it's your kid's birthday party, a corporate event, end of a Little League season, your birthday party. Battle Blast is where you want to go. Get your friends, get your family, get your kids, see who is the best at laser tag at Battle Blast Las Vegas. Plus, they've got arcades and prizes. There's more than just laser tag. It's Battle Blast Las Vegas, located at 8125 West Sahara Avenue. Your next stop for fun in Las Vegas. The Golden Knights traded for Rasmus Andersson yesterday. Flames defenseman. He's going to be a free agent at the end of this season, though the expectation by and large is the Golden Knights will sign him to an extension soon. We'll see. In theory, it doesn't happen and they lose him, but it should get done. They sent Zach Whitecloud, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a prospect to Calgary. That second-round pick becomes a first-round pick if the Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup, so that would actually be a good problem to have if you are Vegas. But they sent it to Calgary. The Flames also retained 50% of Anderson's salary, which helps the Golden Knights with the salary cap. They can bring Brady McNabb back off long-term IR now because of that 50% being retained. Andersson is better than Zach Whitecloud. The chances of the Golden Knights to win the Stanley Cup are better now than they were before the trade because of just that simplicity, right? They basically exchanged one defenseman for another, and the one they got is better, or at least should be better, right? I got a Patreon, and I wrote about this. If you want to go read about what I wrote, patreon.com/technicallycorrect with Tyler Bischoff. Also, I'm going to get more into this on tomorrow's show. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it because did they overpay for this? The retaining of salary is a big part of that. What does it do for the team this year? What does it do for the team next year? What does it also look like for roster building in the future? Because that's part of it that I'm fascinated with because of how the Golden Knights have built their roster over the year and sustained this success. I think Kelly McCrimmon has done an incredible job. Honestly, I think it's better than the expansion draft. I think they've done an incredible job at recycling the talent on the roster despite never having notable contributions from draft picks. Right? This team has stayed good for almost a decade, and what has been good in the draft? Almost nothing, right? Pavel Dorofeyev, right? But almost nothing has been good as far as draft picks coming up. It's because they go out and they make trades like this for Rasmus Andersson, but he's 29 years old. He's not 25 or 26 like the players they normally trade for. So check out my Patreon at patreon.com/technicallycorrect with Tyler Bischoff and tune in tomorrow for more on Rasmus Andersson. We'll see if he plays. Golden Knights have a game. We'll see if he plays in that one. Maybe they've already announced that by the time you're listening to this. The Golden Knights, though, I do want to talk about this. They beat the hell out of the Predators 7-2 in a game where they were playing well but losing, and then all of a sudden it goes from 1-0 to 7-1. It like almost felt bad for Nashville because of how bad the third period got. It was such a beatdown. Some of the lesser players for the Golden Knights, like Keegan Kolesar and Mitch Marner, scored. But the Golden Knights have now won 7 straight games. Their best win streak of the season. Better than any stretch they had last season as well. And I got some numbers. First off, in this stretch, they have scored 36 goals, which is the most in the NHL during this time period. They've allowed 19, which is only 12th best. So their overall defensive numbers or goaltending numbers, however you want to look at that, is still just slightly above average. But this is what I find interesting and sort of, I guess, what to take away from this 7-game win streak. They have 36 goals. They have 20.5 expected goals in this stretch, which means they are massively overperforming what their offensive numbers should be. On the flip side, 19 goals allowed, and it's 18.3 expected goals. So that number is basically dead on. They're 0.7 worse than they should be. But over the last 7 games, the expected goals are 20.5 to 18.3. It's pretty close. The actual goals, though, are 36 to 19. That's blowout territory. In this stretch, they're first in goals, right? Most goals in the NHL. They're only 13th in scoring chances and 15th in high danger chances, right? They're not putting on this incredible offensive onslaught. They're just having pretty much all of their good chances go in, and they're having a lot of non-high danger chances go in the back of the net as well. The Golden Knights have been good. Don't get me wrong. They've been good over these 7 games. And watching it, I would say eye test-wise, the expected goals seem to be underselling how well they play, but the advanced stats tell us this team is actually not performing as well as their goal totals are. What they've done during this stretch is more likely an outlier than who they actually are as a team. That is a fascinating thing when it comes to trying to figure out how good this team is, whether or not you should trade a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and Zach Whitecloud for Rasmus Andersson. But that is an interesting part about how do you evaluate this team. They're killing it right now. Is it real? Is this who we should say the Golden Knights are? Or is this a massive overperformance and they're going to come back to earth and be closer to this? It's not 500 because you get the loser points, but the 500 team of winning and losing games at a pretty even rate. Also, talking about crashing back down to earth or never crashing back down to earth, Mark Stone scored again. I mean, what the hell? He is up to 18 goals in 31 games. When you adjust for the missed games, because he's missed 16 with an injury, even when you adjust for that, he's on pace for 38 goals. Mark Stone has only topped 30 once in his career. 33 is his career high. And he's going to, on pace anyways, miss 16 games and beat his career high by 5 goals. This is crazy that a guy who never scores 30 might get to 40 while missing a fifth of the season, right? Like, it's just wild that that's how good Mark Stone has been. And I talked about this last week, right? His shooting percentage is he might break the franchise record from William Karlsson. Like, in theory, it should come back down. But since I said that, he's scored 2 goals in 2 games. So maybe it won't. But Mark Stone's just been unbelievable recently, and his goal scoring season is crazy because he's never been the guy that scored goals. He's been the guy that does everything else, and now he's the guy that also scores goals. They're going to win the Stanley Cup if he keeps doing this. It's what's going to happen. If he's going to score a goal in every single game, they're going to win the Stanley Cup because they're going to get goals from other guys too. He's not here to necessarily score all the goals. If he does, they're going to win the Stanley Cup. And one last thing in this, because I hate this in hockey, and I wanted to make sure I mention this. One of the biggest problems I think hockey has is when referees go out of their way to even things up. And we saw this in this game against Nashville. Shea Theodore scored. And after the goal, Michael Bunting of Nashville cross-checks Braden Bowman. Play's over, right? The puck's in the back of the net. The play is over. And Bunting just gives Braden Bowman a cross-check. And it starts a scrum because it's hockey, and if you take anything that's perceived as a cheap shot, you either have to fight or all 10 guys on the ice collide. Afterwards, the refs gave Bunting and Tomas Hertl of the Golden Knights matching penalties. They both got roughing, 2 minutes. And so after this play's over, Bunting delivers the cheap shot, starts the full scrum. And Nashville doesn't actually get punished from this at all. They just take one of Vegas's players to even it up. It's so ridiculous. Because, and the other issue, I think that probably the bigger problem for hockey is that they don't do a good enough job policing after the whistle stuff. And I know the tough guy, the physicality is like part of hockey or whatever. But like, if you hit someone after the play is over in any of our sports, it's a serious penalty. You're probably getting thrown out of the game in every other sport, right? Football's got some roughing the passer, late hit stuff where you're not necessarily getting thrown out. But like, you hitting people after the play is a huge deal. In hockey, you don't even get punished for it half the time because everybody else has to jump in and push and shove and whatever, and then they just even it up, right? Like there's not enough policing of after. Like, what the hell did Braden Bowman do? Bunting was mad that he interfered with them and the refs didn't call it during the play. Whatever. You don't get to take a cheap shot because the refs missed a penalty. It's just, I don't know. It just annoys the hell out of me that refs feel the need to even it up. And I think part of it comes from this lack of sort of policing after the whistle stuff and allowing this cross-check type of stuff to happen after the whistle with no real punishment. And also after that scrum or during that scrum, Nick Hague tried to fight Jeremy Lauzon, grabbed him. They went out of the scrum, really wanted to fight him. Lauzon apparently did not want to fight, and the refs broke it up. Oh, they should have fought. Those are the two guys that got traded for each other. And I know it probably would have been bad for Lauzon because he's like, I don't know, 4 inches shorter than Nick Hague. It's quite a size difference there. But like two guys that got traded for each other fighting, that would have been fun. That would have been great. I wish we could have seen that. But the Golden Knights are crushing people right now. We'll see how real it is, how long they can continue to score as many goals as they have been, because the goals, it's been outrageous how many goals they've been scoring, especially in that third period against Nashville. UNLV beat San Jose State by 14 on Saturday. Keynote, San Jose State didn't have 4 of their like top 5 or 6 players in this game. They're decimated by injuries, and they're already bad when those guys are healthy. So, there were some bad spurts for UNLV, given that San Jose State's bad and shorthanded. But overall, it was a good performance, right? You're not really expecting to go win by like 35 points, right? That's an unfair expectation. But here's the big takeaway for me. UNLV can shoot now. So UNLV non-conference play shot 27.5% from 3. Horrific, right? Like I'm talking on here being like, how are they so bad at shooting threes? They got to stop. They got to stop giving the green light to guys who are clearly bad at this. What's going on here? Mountain West play. It's 37%. And it's a small sample size. It's 5 games. So it's a very small sample size. But 37%'s good. And this is against San Jose State, right? They hit a season high 11 threes. They made 48% of them, right? Main reason they won the game is because they were hitting those threes. And this game was fun because San Jose State did what I think I would, but what I would do against UNLV, and that is just load the paint and say, fire away, right? In all honesty, I think San Jose State, part of their game plan was just, can we bait UNLV into taking threes? And they did, right? There was one play where they doubled Kamani Hamilton in the post, and they doubled off of Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn. Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn is the best shooter on the team. He's having a career year shooting from 3, like 40-something%. Last player you should be doubling off of. And Kamani Hamilton kicked it back out, and he hit the open 3. But they also double-teamed a Jacob Benarby post-up. And Jacob Benarby, there's no reason to ever double-team him. You can guard him with half a guy. You don't need 2, right? They got a steal out of it, so it worked for San Jose State, but they were just doubling post-ups, right? Tyron Jones, who's now, I think he's up to 3 3-point attempts on the whole season, hasn't made one, should not be shooting them, is not a shooter. He's shooting like 40% on free throws. God forbid, what's he going to shoot on threes if he took a lot of them? He took a 3 because San Jose State was just not guarding him at the 3-point line. Now, he missed his, but San Jose State basically was like, all right, shoot your threes. And UNLV made them. And through 5 conference games, they are making their threes. They're still pretty low on volume, right? They shot quite a bit in this game, but for the most part, they're still low on volume, but the percentage is there. And if they can actually shoot this well, that's going to change a lot of what this offense is, because defenses can pack the paint, make it really difficult for Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn or Kamani Hamilton or Tyron Jones to get to the rim and finish at the rim. But if they can knock down some threes, that will change the way they get defended and make it easier for those guys. Is this real? Probably not. Again, it's 5 games. And if you look at the history of these players, they didn't go out and get a bunch of good shooters, right? Like Howie Fleming and Al Green, I think, are the only 2 healthy guys that are like an above average shooter in their careers before UNLV. Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn is having a good year, so maybe there's 3 guys you could reliably say will shoot well the rest of the way, but we'll see how well they actually do. I'm not buying into it just yet, but it is a good trend. Also, if you guys haven't figured out yet, little things when I watch games tend to annoy me, like that weird scrum in the Golden Knights game, but this one as well. Into the first half of UNLV San Jose State, this is some of the stuff that just pisses me off, right? San Jose State has the ball with about 50 seconds left, and it's a perfect chance for San Jose State to go 2 for 1, right? Shoot the ball with, 41, 42 seconds left on the clock. That way, after you take the shot and make or miss and they get a defensive rebound, they can't run the clock out for the final shot. UNLV can't take the final shot of the half. You're going to get a second possession. This is a solved problem in basketball. 2 possessions is better than 1. 2 bad possessions is better than 1 good possession, right? Like the math has been solved. You want 2 possessions. Even if you take sort of 2 bad threes, the math still says that's going to be more efficient than 1 good possession for your opponent. So you want to go 2 for 1. Anytime you can set up a 2 for 1 situation at the end of a quarter, end of a half, you should do it. And San Jose State didn't do it. They let the clock run down under 30, right? Take a shot. No, they turned it over. They didn't even get a shot off, right? They tried to get a good shot. They didn't even get a shot. They just turned it over. So UNLV then gets the ball back. The shot clock is turned off, meaning UNLV can hold for the last shot, which, because of all the math in the 2 for 1, you want to hold for the last shot. Otherwise, you're giving your opponent the 2 for 1 advantage. So you hold for the last shot. Do you think UNLV held for the last shot? Of course they didn't. Al Green took a 3 with 10 seconds left. He made it. Good for him. But he took a 3 with 10 seconds left, just giving San Jose State another possession. But then we're not done with the crappy basketball. Ball goes in. You know what San Jose State does? Watches the ball. They don't get it to inbound it and get up the floor and get a shot. They just watch the ball. So they do eventually get it in, and the guy takes a half-court heave. They had 10 seconds. That is an eternity to get the ball and go up the floor and get a decent look. Instead, they just sort of watched the ball bounce, went and got it, inbounded it with like 4 or 5 seconds left, and then got to half-court. Like, that annoys me so much when there are things in a basketball game or any of these sports where it's like the strategy is, we figured it out, guys. We know what you're supposed to be doing in those scenarios, and nobody does it on either team, right? Like, San Jose State didn't go 2 for 1. They still got the 2 for 1. UNLV didn't take the last shot of the half, but they still kind of did because the other team just let the ball bounce. Listen, college basketball players should know this. I think if you're a college basketball player, you should know about 2 for 1s. Like, going to college, you should know about 2 for 1s. Whatever's happening at the high school level, I don't pay any attention to that. But we should be figuring out 2 for 1s. This is not some crazy analytical thing. This is very easy. College basketball players should know. But what's even worse, how are these coaches not coaching these players to do this? How is this not like hey, here's a situation where this is exactly what we should be doing? There are other college basketball teams, I know Florida does this, where they will not let the 2 for 1 happen, right? Because here's what happens in college basketball, the clock runs. So if I take a shot with 41 seconds left and I make it, right? Ball goes through with 39 seconds left. The other team, if I made it, I should have a 2 for 1 now. But because the clock runs, what Florida does, and other schools have done it, is they just don't inbound the ball. They just sort of watch it bounce, and then they'll go pick it up and slowly inbound the ball. That way, they inbound the ball, and the shot clock doesn't start till they inbound it, and there's 30 seconds left on the clock. Now the clock's off, and they can take the last shot. There are other teams who have strategies to stop the 2 for 1s that UNLV and San Jose State don't even think about, don't even know exist, because they're not even trying to get 2 for 1. It just pisses me off. I got to move on. The Lady Rebels lost. Arnold, I'm sorry. Arnold had me do a breakdown of this. The Lady Rebels played San Diego State. They were at the top of the Mountain West standings. They were both 7-0, and San Diego State won in overtime. UNLV was down 10 with 4 minutes to play in that game. Came back to get it to overtime, but then it got outscored 12-3 in overtime. So Lady Rebels are now 7-1 in Mountain West play. They're second behind San Diego State. We'll see how this season finishes out, but that is a big one for who wins the Mountain West regular season and who gets the 1 seed in the tournament, which is going to obviously be the most favorable seed, but especially this year where there appears to be a top 3 and not really a top 4. So that semifinal between versus 4 versus between 3 is a big difference. Also, UNLV football landed more players out of the transfer portal. I told you guys they were coming with more players. Don't think I criticized any of this last week. But first off, they got one of the funniest additions. I love this so much. They got a punter out of the transfer portal. A punter from Kennesaw State who didn't punt last year. Matt Chules, I believe is how you say his last name. He was a freshman. He's from Australia. Didn't punt. So I've got nothing for you. I have no idea if we should think he's a good punter or bad. I got no idea because UNLV in the portal got a punter from Kennesaw State that didn't punt last year. He might be the best punter in the nation. Who knows? Funniest transfer you could possibly get as a punter who didn't play at a lower level the previous season. But they also got Kyron Chambers from SMU. So Chambers was a 3-star high school recruit that went to TCU, didn't play much at TCU, transferred after one season to SMU, didn't play much over his first 2 seasons at SMU, but last year played in all 12 games, played over 400 snaps, got quite a bit of playing time, mostly lined up at slot corner, according to Pro Football Focus. So you're getting an older player with some good playing experience, but in general, just a lot of experience being in college football, which is probably going to be helpful there as well. They also got Cam Santee, a linebacker from Holy Cross, who was probably Holy Cross's best defensive player. Pro Football Focus seems to think so. He played the most snaps for Holy Cross last year. PFF gave him a 90 run defense grade, which is very good, by the way. Only 58 in coverage, so maybe not a coverage linebacker, but very good against the run. Also, second on the team with 4.5 sacks. So good pass rusher when asked to do so, and very good against the run. It potentially, right, maybe 2 more starters out of the portal. But this is Jackson Arnold's going to be the most important player, right, out of the transfer portal because you need a good quarterback, right? But after that, this is probably the most important thing. How many good defensive players can UNLV get out of the portal? How many starters can they get that were better than what UNLV had last season? Because the defense was not good last season. And you go through this now, Kyron Chambers and Cam Santee, but they've also gotten Landon Cleveland, who's from Oklahoma State, D. Creighton, who's from Clemson, Herb Grafe, who's from Tennessee, Tony Lewis and Kuba, who's from Arizona State. They've gotten quite a few defensive players out of the portal already, most of which are power conference guys that didn't play much and are taking the step down. Santee's taking the step up after a lot of playing time, but most of those guys are power conference guys taking the step down. We'll see how it works out, right? It's kind of hard to say, oh, the guy who played 17 snaps is going to be good or bad, but we'll see. But those are probably going to be, after Jackson Arnold, the quarterback, those are probably going to be the key guys in determining if UNLV's roster is better than it was last season and therefore have a better chance to go to the college football playoff than they did last season. Also in the Mountain West, just because this is very bizarre, Air Force suspended their basketball coach, Joe Scott. And they announced they're investigating his treatment of players. What did he do? Right? And at a military school, I'm assuming the threshold is a lot higher at a military school. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming the threshold is a lot higher. The thing with Joe Scott, though, like whatever they're investigating, Joe Scott probably should have been fired as Air Force's coach before this season. They're horrendous. They've won 3 Mountain West games in the previous 2 years. And they haven't won one this year, right? They're now 3-15 and 0-7 in Mountain West play. Like they might actually go 0-20 in Mountain West play. So on the court, Joe Scott should have been fired. If you're this bad on the court and there's some sort of physical, verbal altercations, abuse of players, like what the hell is Joe Scott doing that's good? Like what's going well there if that's how the players are being treated as well. So Joe Scott suspended, we'll see what happens, but just based on the on-court issues, there's no reason to think Joe Scott's coming back to coach at Air Force again. Bischoff's Briefs is brought to you by Battle Blast Las Vegas, the best laser tag in Vegas. Host your next birthday party at Battle Blast. Book the party package and you'll get a private party room, dedicated host, pizza, soda, arcade tokens, and laser tag. Plus, you can add a game for the adults if you want to play after your kids are done playing, or book it for yourself, as I always say. Battle Blast Las Vegas, located at 8125 West Sahara Avenue, your next stop for fun in Las Vegas. Shout out to Battle Blast Las Vegas for sponsoring the show. It means a lot to me to have that sponsorship in place so that I can do this show. It's a big deal. But College Football National Championship is tonight. Get to that in just a second. There is still no agreement on a new college football playoff format. The conference commissioners met yesterday in Miami and did not come to a final answer on what the next college football playoff format should be. There is a deadline of Friday with ESPN. It was reported, and I sorry, I'm blanking on who reported it, but it was reported that ESPN is not going to give an extension. It was Ross Dellinger. There's not going to be an extension from ESPN on this deadline. They're saying we need to know this week what your what your schedule is, right? Because we need to start planning out what our broadcasting schedule is going to be of those games. So by Friday, there's got to be a new playoff format in place, or it'll still be the 12-team playoffs that we saw this past year with like one or two minor tweaks. That whole Notre Dame rule is stupid. But this comes down to the SEC and Big Ten not agreeing on the format, right? The SEC apparently wants a 16-team format where they keep the 5 auto bids for conference champs, whereas the Big Ten wants a 24-team format with like 2 to 4 auto bids for all the power conference teams, and they just can't agree. And to be honest, it's pathetic that they can't agree to anything. Like, it's a playoff format. What are we doing here? Like, what is there to be discussed that you guys haven't discussed already? You already got an extension on the deadline. Like, figure it out. It can't be that difficult to actually come up with a playoff format that everybody can agree on. And if it's not, right, it just stays at 12. So it's not like the playoff goes away, but part of this does feel like, we don't have to pick anything new because we at least have the 12-team format to fall back on. But they're going to expand it. They just can't figure out the rules they want to put in place to expand it, which is pathetic. The Big Ten and SEC should have had a deadline where if those two conferences couldn't figure it out by Sunday, the Mountain West and Conference USA get to pick. They get to come in and choose how many teams and how many automatic qualifiers, right? Like, just figure it out, or the Mountain West is going to decide your fate. Also, Indiana's head coach, Curt Cignetti, he got asked about like going to the NFL as a head coach, and he said, "I'm not an NFL guy." He gave this quote to Brett McMurphy. "I'm not an NFL guy. I made that decision a long time ago. I've always been a college football guy." Here on Technically Correct, I'm here to tell you that technically Curt Cignetti did not say he won't coach in the NFL. He just said, "I'm not an NFL guy, and I made a decision a long time ago to be a college football guy." Doesn't mean you can't change your decision there. Doesn't mean you can't become an NFL guy. So maybe you wait on Curt Cignetti. Hire him there. I honestly have no idea if that would work. I'd be surprised if it did. I feel like most of the whole college to NFL thing is not going to work out, but maybe it would. And Curt Cignetti of the NFL would be. I mean, listen, if the Raiders hired Cignetti and drafted Mendoza, that's Mark Davis is like, oh my God, we're going to be the headlines for the whole offseason if we do that. So yeah, you can't rule that out because of Mark Davis. And technically Cignetti didn't say that. He didn't say that. He also he needs the NFL dangle out there so that he can get contract extensions from Indiana, right? Obviously, he's doing a lot to get them, but in the future, you're going to be like, there's a couple NFL jobs that want to interview me. Indiana, if you want me to stay here at Indiana, you're going to have to give me an even bigger raise on what I already make. And Indiana say, okay, we do, because you have now made us a football powerhouse, and we never thought that was a possibility. In the national championship game, Indiana, huge favorites over Miami. So the way I'm looking at this is, how does Miami win the game? That's probably, I think, the interesting way to look at this game, because if things go how everyone expects, Indiana's going to win, and it might be pretty comfortable. So if Miami's going to win this game, I think it's going to be offensive line and defensive line, just a dominant performance from Miami on those spots. First off, with Miami and their front four, I mean, their pass rush is incredible. Ruben Bain, and he wasn't even necessarily good against Ole Miss, and they still had a great pass rush. Miami, though, 5th in pressure rate this season. 42% of opponent dropbacks, they get pressure. Indiana has only allowed pressure on 28% of their dropbacks offensively, right? And Mendoza, it's interesting. He doesn't have a high volume of scrambles this year, but EPA per play, 3rd best when scrambling. So very efficient when he does scramble, but didn't have to do it very much. So does Miami force him to scramble more, or at least throw quicker than usual? Does the pressure rate, I mean, sacks are obviously the thing you really want, but does the pressure rate, does that come closer to that 42% number for Miami or that 28% number for Indiana's offensive line? I think that's going to go a long way in determining how successful Indiana is offensively. They're also very good running the ball yards before contact, so that could have a big impact as well if they can easily run the ball. But I think how that Miami defensive line does is going to go a long way. If they can have a dominant performance, they'll have a shot here. And on the other side, So Miami's offensive line bullied Ole Miss in the semifinal. And Mark Fletcher, their running back, has 395 rushing yards in 3 playoff games. And Texas A&M, Ohio State, Ole Miss, right? He's done it through 3 Power 5 opponents. So their run game, it wasn't this good in the regular season. They've somehow been better against the better competition. But their run game has been awesome, and their offensive line has been awesome in the playoffs. They're also, by the way, first in pressure rate allowed. Carson Beck is the cleanest quarterback you could have in that regard. So how does this offensive line look against a really good Indiana defensive line? Because Indiana's top 10 defensive line in creating pressure as well. I don't think Miami's winning this game because Carson Beck makes a bunch of incredible plays under pressure, and we're like, wow, Carson Beck's awesome, right? Maybe there's like some Malachi Tony plays where he turns a 7-yard gain into a touchdown or something like that. Malachi Tony's really good, but I don't think this is like Carson Beck has this monster game. I think he might have the monster game, but I think it's because, the offensive line was great, and Carson Beck got to stand in the pocket and make clean throws down the field. I think the key, though, is the offensive line, defensive line, right? If Miami wins those, they'll have a real chance to win the game. If they lose those as all, even if they're even, I think Indiana wins this game. And even if they're even, Indiana might win this game easily. Like, it might not come down to the last 5 minutes, right? So that's kind of going into this. I expect Indiana to win. They're the best team in college football this year. I thought Indiana, Ohio State, and Texas Tech were the 3 best going into the playoffs. I thought that was sort of tier 1. It certainly is looking like Indiana's tier 1, and Ohio State and Texas Tech were a lot closer to tier 2. But we'll see. I hope we get a good game because I love the college football playoffs. And the only downside to it is we often get blowouts. So hopefully we don't get that. Hopefully we get a good one out of Indiana and Miami. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to have more on Rasmus Andersson, more on the Golden Knights, and the college football playoff.